what I'm going to talk to you today about is Facebook's newsfeed algorithm. This was previously called EdgeRank, hasn't actually been described as EdgeRank by Facebook themselves for years now, so I call it the newsfeed algorithm, which is the way that they describe it now. But a little bit about us to begin with. So the Digitarati, the consultancy with the difficult to pronounce name, we do consultancy and training, and you'll see some of the training stuff we do on that website there. We also run, as Alexandra said, quite a thriving Facebook group called Team Digitarati. Would love to have you there, but I'm not here to sell, so let's get on with things. So what I want to talk to you about really in the context of the algorithm is that Facebook page reach is terrible. You spend all this time creating fabulous content, you spend all this time getting new fans, and yet something like about 12% of your fans will see the average post. This is the most recent research I've found. LocoWise do 6 monthly studies on this, quite a decent sample size as well. And at the moment, reach on average is looking at about 12% of your fan base. That means that a lot of your posts are going to be way lower than that, because the odd reasonably viral post really pushes this up. So you can see that engagement is reasonably low as well, when you look at just 12% of people seeing stuff, and then of those only 4% actually engaging. It's pretty poor. So as page owners, unless we're going to pay, we need to work on how to increase that number. Graphically, that's what this looks like. So we've got a post here that we've done. This was a podcast, live broadcast that we did. So we're putting it out to all these people on Facebook, you know, however many hundreds or thousands of fans we've got, but a very, very small percentage seeing them. And that, folks, is the state of reach nowadays. Back in the day, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, we were looking at 30 to 50% reach on average, and everyone was happy. They were even moaning about that, moaning that they couldn't get 100% reach. But nowadays, if you're getting 12%, you're doing pretty well. It's not a great state of affairs. It's why a lot of us have moved to Facebook groups. It's why we see a lot more sponsored content in our news feeds, because it's the only way we can guarantee to get stuff out there. Now, the thing that drives this is the newsfeed algorithm, and it promotes content that Facebook loves, and it throttles content that it dislikes. It has a friends and family first policy, so you're more likely to see stuff from friends and family that you engage with a lot, far less likely to see stuff from Facebook pages. That's because none of us really like being sold to on Facebook. Even if we've signed up and we like a page, we still don't want to be bombarded by their stuff, particularly when it feels quite promotional. Facebook knows that, and it's got a 100,000 factor algorithm in place to ensure that the newsfeed is as clients want it. Now, Adam Mosseri is the VP of Product Management on Facebook, and I know F8 has just happened for 2017. This was a fairly little known presentation that he did last year, where he gave quite a lot of insight into the algorithm and into the newsfeed. This is what he said: the goal of newsfeed is to show people stories that matter most to them, whether it's from friends or pages. Our role in newsfeed is to connect people with the stories that matter to them most. So it uses the algorithm to figure out what matters most to me. So if I am engaging with a particular page regularly, I'm going to see far more of that page's content than a page that I've perhaps liked 5 years ago and haven't really done anything with since. The likelihood is I'm never going to see that content again unless they boost to me. So how do we unpack those algorithm factors, and what have other people done to it? Now, over on the left here, you may well have seen this green graphic. And classically, if you search EdgeRank in Google Images or Facebook algorithm, you'll see either this Social Bakers one here or this green one here. Now, I think they're a little bit out of date, really. I particularly dislike this weird kind of Greek symbol that is meant to indicate EdgeRank. It gives this more of a scientific formula than I think it really has. So I've created my own. That's this one here, and we are going to unpack that in the rest of this session. Let's just give you some idea of my credentials for doing this. I spent 3 years doing a master's degree, which pretty much was on Facebook. So did a lot of original research on the algorithm. I devoted 3 years really to looking at these kind of questions. I have tried to read everything that's been published about it, whether that comes from Facebook itself. And to be honest, Facebook's quite secretive about these factors. It'll tell you the big things. So you know, for instance, that it doesn't like stuff that's clickbaity. It doesn't like nowadays fake news. There are various things that it will tell you. And Mosseri was talking about friends and family first and things like that. But there are lots and lots of other things that you need to kind of put 2 and 2 together, do a little bit of investigation on. So I've written a book that unpacks it in a lot of detail. You can get that on Amazon if you would like. And what I'm going to do is just talk through these different factors of the algorithm now. So we first start on the left-hand side, which is newsfeed visibility. So let's just check we understand what we mean by that. So if you are a page and you have put something out organically on your page, that will hopefully be seen by a good number of your fans. The percentage of your fans that see that, that's called the percentage reach of that particular post. How visible is your post in your fans' newsfeed? And as a user, someone that's got a profile on Facebook, I look through my newsfeed and I will see maybe one post that's an ad, a couple of posts from brand pages, and the rest are likely to be friends and family. It's that sort of mix. If you happen to like a lot of brands and interact with a lot of pages on Facebook, you may see a little bit more that's page related than personal. So that's the thing that we're getting to when we're thinking about algorithm. And really those 100,000 factors fall in my opinion, to these 5 elements. Interest in the page, the performance of the post itself, the performance of the page itself, what type of content it is, and how recent the content is. So we will quickly unpack each of those. Interest in the page first. How much do you love this page? So 1, how recently did you like it? Because that's an indicator to Facebook of you wanting to see stuff about it pretty much now. Have I clicked on a lot of their stuff? Have I read and maybe gone through to their instant articles? Have I liked their stuff? Have I commented on it? Have I shared it? So all of those things are sending indicators to Facebook that you want to see more of that page's stuff. So if you're a brand, if you're a page on Facebook, what can you do to generate interest in your page? Well, produce content that's really, really clicky and sticky and interesting and gets people talking and liking and sharing. What if you're a bit dormant and you know that people aren't really seeing your stuff? Well, create that content and boost it to your fans. And I'm going to just take a tip from something David said in our first set of presentations this morning. He was talking about when you boost, being really, really careful about boosting to the countries and excluding countries that you don't want to see this stuff. He spent a lot of money and ended up with a lot of fans in India and the Philippines that weren't necessarily going to be prime target market for him. So boost posts, boost them appropriately, and generate some interest from your existing fan base if that's gone a little bit stale. And you're then likely to trigger in some organic reach to them later on. So that's interest in the page. Then the performance of the post itself. Now, this is really crucial, particularly nowadays. So when you post the post, that's important. Post at a time when the majority of your audience are going to be online. Now, for a brand like the Digitarati, our folks tend to be online on their morning commute in the morning, so maybe 7:30 through to about 8:45, and then maybe a bit at lunchtime, and then back end of the day, evening commute, maybe being online while they're watching TV and that kind of thing in the evening. So I would suggest that you post then, because what happens in those first few minutes of your post is crucial to Facebook getting quality indicators. If it's instantly getting clicks, maybe it's a link post and it's instantly getting clicks through to your blog post and people are spending time reading it. If it's instantly getting likes, comments and shares, that's sending quality indicators back to Facebook to say, this is a great piece of content. You need to make sure that more of this page's fans see this stuff. So when you post, and the quality of the post itself. Now, don't be afraid of asking questions in your post. Don't be afraid perhaps of getting some of your friends and family to seed a couple of likes and comments. No one wants to be the first person to go put their hands up in a classroom, and it's the same with commenting on a post. So get some engagement rolling with it. And I would suggest, if it's appropriate for your brand, maybe posting something that's a little bit controversial. That'll certainly get some engagement going. And humor is hugely, hugely effective here. So putting something together that's funny, that's cute. This is why cute cat videos do so well. Those kind of things are gonna get performance moving very, very quickly. So they'll boost you up beyond that 12%. Moving to the next thing, past page performance. So Facebook knows whether your page is kind of a bit like tumbleweed, or whether every time you post, everyone goes crazy and loves what you do. So don't produce rubbish content that you just put out for the sake of it, because we've got to do a post a day, or a post every couple of hours, or a post a week. Only post when you've got really, really decent quality. Because Facebook has a sort of cumulative knowledge of how well you've done in the past. What happens if you are a page that's been guilty of that in the past and not done so well? Well, you need to start building up. So stop all the rubbish and start really focusing on quality. I would rather have a couple of really high quality posts than lots of stuff that's like verbal diarrhea. I see a lot of that on Twitter, and it's just ridiculous. You know, it's better to have one or two things on Facebook than lots that are terrible. So focus on getting your page performance up. There are other factors as well in relation to the page, like having all of your page information detailed, being in the right category, masses of sort of on-page factors that Facebook likes, 100,000 factors. I can't go into them all. I have detailed quite a lot of them in the book, and I've got an online course actually if you want to have a little bit more about that. Then we look at type of content. Now, this is really fascinating. As you'll probably be aware, Facebook is very into video, particularly live video at the moment. So you'll find that if you're producing live video, that's more likely to get seen than any other content type on Facebook. Now, when they first launched live video, and this is almost always the case with some new feature on Facebook, it gets a temporary algorithmic boost. But Facebook live video is way, way more effective still than anything else. So if you're thinking, shall I do a pre-recorded video? Shall I do a blog post? Shall I just do a status update? Shall I put a photo out, or shall I do a video? Do a live video. It just works all the time. And a little tip as well, something like 80% of people that watch videos on Facebook do so with the sound off. So do your live video and then afterwards caption it up, because people are watching it without any sound on. And if it's just like, look at me, I'm talking, you have no idea what I'm talking about unless there's some captions running across the bottom. So make sure you do that kind of as a post-production thing. It's not difficult to do. We've actually got a little app that we use to do it on. If you want to grab hold of that for free, I'm really happy to send it to you. Just get in touch. So type of content, let me just run through what the different types are. So you've got the plain status update. Now, that survey I was telling you about earlier from LocoWise, they looked at the performance of the different types of content, and I've wrapped that in my research with other studies, and these are reasonably consistent. Status updates with nothing else don't tend to do very well. Live video is going to do particularly well. Photo posts actually are really on the up. They're doing a lot better nowadays than they were a year or two ago. Something like a YouTube link is not considered by Facebook to be video. It's considered to be a link. So do be aware of that. If you haven't got Facebook live video, use natively uploaded video rather than a YouTube link. Not only will you get way more kind of real estate on the screen with a Facebook video than you will with a YouTube one, because they make it really small, because Facebook doesn't like YouTube very much, but you'll be treated better by the algorithm. I've got two other pieces of content that I would recommend you play with. One is an event. Now, we've all seen events on Facebook. We tend to use them for parties and for maybe live music, maybe a conference, that kind of thing. But you should be able to think about events that you can use for your brand, for your page, even if you haven't got a physical event people are going to. I don't know, a countdown to a launch, something like that. Facebook really likes events. Its algorithm likes events. I'd suggest you use them. Not only do you get a little bit of reach when you particularly first launch the event, but any changes that you make to the event page, anyone that's expressed an interest in that event will see that on their timeline, almost guaranteed. And if you pop a photo into the event or change something on there, it's going to just resurface again. And if they've said they're going to the event, they'll get reminders from Facebook as well about it. So I call that kind of a Cinderella type of content. Very, very underused. It's also quite novel, so people see it and drawn to attention by it. The other type that's a little like that is Facebook offers. Hugely underutilized and very much worthwhile you having a look at. With both of these types, you can boost them, and that's where budget will really take you quite a long way. And it's just novel. And again, you don't necessarily need to have something to sell in order to make an offer. You could make an offer for a freebie that you're giving away, like a lead magnet, that kind of thing. Lots and lots of creativity that you can have with offers and events. So do take a look at those. Finally, we're going to look at recency. Now, you're more likely to see something on your newsfeed if it's a fairly recent update. Facebook wants to be the purveyor of news. That's why it's called the news feed. So it's wanting to be the place where people discover, for instance, if JFK died today, Facebook is where you'd find out about it rather than in the newspaper or on the TV. So it's going to be pushing content that's very, very recent. There's a lag, you've got a window really of maybe 2 hours or so before your content's almost guaranteed to drop out of newsfeed unless it's extraordinarily sticky and lots of people are seeing it. There is a thing called story bump where Facebook perhaps a day or two later will discover that your content is looking good. Maybe, I mean, I've often gained this by sending a newsletter out with the link to my Facebook piece in it. 2 days later, after it was first done, people start clicking on it through from the newsletter or the email. And Facebook's going, oh, hang on, look, people are finding this. This is important. So it story bumps it up again into the newsfeed. Lots and lots within each of those, but they really are the key areas of the algorithm. I don't want to push this too heavily, but that's the book. And there's a course if you have more questions. And you're very, very welcome to jump over onto our site and on our Facebook group if you have any questions, or just message me. That would be fine. A little giveaway for you here. This is the ultimate guide to Facebook marketing, top 10 things that you must do right now. So do jump across if you'd like to have a copy of that. Alex, I don't know if you're going to run questions at the end of this.